I always thought the creaking in the walls was just the house settling, just like my mom used to say when I was a kid lying awake at night, clutching my blanket as the wind whispered secrets through the old wooden siding. We lived in a 2-story farmhouse tucked into the pines of northern Vermont, a place that felt so removed from the world it could have existed in a different century. The kind of place where winters could bury you in silence and summers were so quiet you could hear the trees breathing. My mother had always been a strange, quiet woman. She was never cruel, never unkind, but distant, like she was living next to us rather than with us. My father died when I was 12 in a car crash that no one wanted to talk about, and after that, the house got even quieter. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part started on the day I came home to help Mom move into assisted living. She'd been forgetful lately, leaving the stove on, misplacing keys, calling me by my father's name. So I took a week off from work, packed a bag, and drove back to that old house for what I thought would be a bittersweet goodbye. What I didn't expect was to find a hammer sitting on the kitchen table, a section of drywall in the upstairs hallway removed like someone had been searching for something. I asked Mom about it, but she just smiled and said, "Sometimes the house talks back." That was the beginning. The first night, I couldn't sleep. There was a scratching sound coming from behind the wall next to my childhood bedroom, rhythmic and persistent, like something trapped and desperate. I thought maybe it was mice, so I knocked back. The scratching stopped. Then 2 knocks answered. 2 slow, deliberate knocks. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next day, I found an old metal lockbox buried behind the drywall in the hallway. It was wedged behind the beams, covered in decades of dust and cobwebs. I brought it downstairs, cracked the rusted latch, and found inside it a stack of faded photographs, old letters, and something that made my stomach turn, a birth certificate. My name was on it. But the parents listed weren't mine. I went back to my mother, box in hand, trembling. "Who are these people?" I demanded. She looked at the papers like she'd never seen them before, then muttered, "I thought I'd sealed it tight enough." That was when the house creaked again, louder this time. Like something deep inside the walls was waking up. I didn't know what scared me more, my mother's eerie calm or the fact that the foundation of everything I believed about my family was beginning to crumble like old plaster. I stood there frozen, the crumbling drywall at my feet, the hidden box clutched in my hand. My mom just stared at it, her lips pressed into a tight line, her body so still it didn't even seem like she was breathing. When she finally spoke, it wasn't with fear, but exhaustion. "Put that down, Daniel," she said softly. "Some things were buried for a reason." But I didn't. I opened the box. Inside were old photos, letters tied in a worn silk ribbon, and something that looked like an old government badge, black, tarnished, with a faded seal and the initials DOD. That alone would be been strange enough. But the photos, one showed a man I'd never seen before standing in our living room, only the wallpaper was different and the furniture was older. Another showed my mother, younger, maybe 20, standing next to that same man, holding a baby that wasn't me. My mom lunged forward, tried to grab the box, but I stepped back. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "That's your father," she said. "But not the one you knew." That's when the walls really started closing in, not the literal walls, but the ones in my mind. I couldn't make sense of it. My dad died in a car accident when I was 9. Or so I was told. I remembered the funeral. I remembered the way my mom screamed when the police delivered the news. Or did I suddenly, all those memories felt slippery, like I was holding onto something that was never real. You said he worked for the city, I said. She sighed, sat down on the floor like the weight of decades had just broken her knees. He did. At first. Then he didn't he? She told me everything. My real father Thomas Renner had been recruited by a government agency sometime in the early 90s. He was brilliant with systems, but unstable. Somewhere down the line, he got involved in something called Project Black Room, an experimental psychological operation designed to test the limits of memory manipulation. But things went wrong. People started vanishing. Entire blocks in small towns across the Midwest went dark. And then one day, he came home saying they'd made a mistake, that he wasn't supposed to remember. That's when my mom decided to run. She changed her name. Moved us to a new state. Married someone else, a man who agreed to raise me as his own and who died years later, never revealing the truth. The house we lived in now, it used to belong to someone else connected to the project. She bought it through a chain of anonymous trusts. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Her eyes filled with tears. Because people who know, they disappear, Daniel. And not just physically. Sometimes they're still walking around. But they don't know who they are anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I kept those photos by my bed. I looked at the man who was supposedly my real father and tried to find myself in his eyes. There was something familiar, sure, but there was also something deeply alien. The next day, I went back to the wall. Dug deeper. Behind the box was something else, a small, locked case with a biometric scanner. I don't know what came over me, but I pressed my thumb to the pad. It clicked. Opened. Inside, was a flash drive, old and dusty, and a handwritten note, "If you're reading this, they've already found you." The note was barely legible, scribbled in what looked like charcoal on brittle paper. "If you're reading this, they've already found you." My pulse thudded in my ears. I looked around the room like I expected someone to be watching me from the shadows, like the walls themselves were listening. My mother hadn't said a word since I pulled the flash drive from the case. She sat in the kitchen, her eyes vacant, sipping cold coffee like the past had finally caught up to her and dragged her mind under with it. I took the drive to the one place I thought might help my friend Caleb's basement. He was a security consultant, ex-military, paranoid as hell, but smart. If there was anyone I trusted with government secrets, it was him. "You sure this isn't gonna fry my rig?" he asked, holding the old flash drive like it was radioactive. "Just plug it in," I said. He slid it into an air-gapped laptop and immediately the screen went black. Then green text began to type itself across the display. "Hello, Thomas. You shouldn't have remembered." It was like something out of a movie. Lines of code flashed, schematics of neural architecture I couldn't begin to understand. Caleb's eyes widened. "This isn't just data, man. This is active. It's rewriting parts of the system." But what chilled me to the bone was what came next. A single folder, named Mirage, with subfolders labeled by date. The most recent one, today's date. Inside, video footage. Of me. Sitting in Caleb's basement. Only the timestamp said the footage was from 2 hours before I even got there. The doorbell rang upstairs. We froze. Caleb muted everything, pulled his sidearm from the drawer. "You expecting anyone?" he whispered. I shook my head. He checked the monitor, black screen. "Cameras offline." That's when I saw movement, just a flicker out of the corner of my eye. In the footage on the laptop, behind me, someone was standing in the basement shadows. Watching. In real time. I spun around. No one. I think we need to go, I said. Now. We burned the drive, wiped every system, and went off-grid. My mom packed a single bag, no protest, like she'd been waiting for this day since before I was born. She handed me another note before we left, this one folded into the lining of her coat, if they catch you, they won't kill you. They LL erase you. I didn't know if that was metaphor or not. We headed west, no GPS, no phones. Just maps and cash. I needed answers. I needed to know who I was, and more importantly what I was. Because the more I thought about it, the more memories started to feel wrong. There were gaps. Not just missing pieces, but whole swaths of childhood that felt like someone else's dream. What if they hadn't just erased my father? What if I'd been part of it too? A test subject, an experiment grown from the wreckage of a man who was never supposed to remember. Now I'm writing this from a borrowed cabin in the Nevada desert. My mom is sleeping in the next room, finally at peace, maybe for the first time in decades. But I'm not. Because every night since we ran, I've had the same dream, me, back in that house, opening the wall, only this time, there's no box. Just darkness. And a voice whispering from the other side. Welcome back.